Dr. S. G. V. Subramaniam is currently working as professor in the Environmental Studies Department of Anna University, Chennai. He has done 8 master's degrees including MBA, 6 postgraduate diplomas, a degree in law and Doctor of Philosophy in the field of environmental management and environmental law. He has done his postdoctoral work in France under the Indo-French Cultural Exchange Fellowship and at Germany under the DAD Fellowship. He has been awarded UN Fellowship and done Diploma in International Lawmaking and Diplomacy from the University of Joensuu, Finland. He is involved in several environmental impact assessment related consultancy works. He has guided several students for their master's degree program project works. To his credit, nearly 77 papers have been published and presented in various national and international conferences. He has been nominated by His Excellency Governor of Tamil Nadu as Senate member for 2 terms to the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University. He has been nominated as expert member for the State Environmental Appraisal Committee for 2 terms by the Government of India. He has served as member board of studies in the Legal Studies Department of University of Madras. Right now, he has been nominated as member board of studies in the field of environmental studies in the Tiruvallur University. He has written several chapters in the leading books in the field of environmental law.
Welcome to the UGC lecture series on environmental management and development. In continuation of the carbon footprint, today we will discuss on the 5th episode. The contents we are going to discuss are the following: carbon footprint calculation, how to calculate the carbon footprint. Second, carbon toe print. Third one, contributing towards the sustainable development. Fourth one, importance of carbon footprint, especially for the construction industry. Carbon footprint calculator, it is a very essential one, but it is not so easy to measure. We have to take into consideration several factors. The basic steps for calculating the carbon footprint for any organization, first and the foremost, you have to establish the assessment boundaries. So, what boundary or within that boundary, what building which we are going to calculate the carbon footprint, that we have to make it as a first step. Secondly, organizational and operational sources for the greenhouse gases. Organizational, what are the various organizational factors which you are going to contribute for the greenhouse gases, and the various operational factors which are going to contribute for the greenhouse gases, you have to list it out. Then thirdly, after the due listing out, you have to collect the various data in connection with the organizational and operational factors. Then the next one, calculation of emissions using appropriate emission factors. Already it is available, the various emission factors. Through that, we have to calculate the emissions using that factor. Already this has been given in the standards for the life cycle analysis ISO 14044 and ISO 14040. So, in my previous slide, I said the assessment of the boundaries. The assessment of the boundaries are the following. First one, the electricity consumption. You see this electricity consumption, gas plus heating oil consumption. Then third one, refrigerant losses. Then the company owned vehicles. Then the next one, business travel, commuting, waste disposal, then delivery by third parties. Here, business travel, the people who are coming to that industry for the purpose of various business, that thing is considered to be the business travel. And commuting, those who are employed are regularly coming and commuting, they are coming under the category of this commuting. Of course, waste disposal we know, then the deliveries by the third parties. Now, let us see the sources of emissions, equivalent emissions, proportionate of total, the equivalent emissions carbon dioxide per tons per year. Here the premises electricity, it is supposed to be the major one, nearly 2342.4. Of the total percentage, it amounts to nearly 40%. Then the second one inside the premises, the gas, it is around 394.3, around 77% of the total. Third one, heating oil, around 530.5 tons per year, 9% of the total. Then backup generators, 1.6 tons per year, you can say more or less 0. Like that it goes refrigerant loss, then company owned vehicles, petrol cars, then business travel petrol cars, business travel taxi hired, air travel, train travel, hotel stays, petrol car commuting, then motorcycle travel commuting, commuting by train, commuting by the bus, commuting or the deliveries by van, then premises for the landfilled waste. All these things we can work it out, that equivalent emissions of the carbon dioxide in terms of tons per year and the proportion of the total. Now, this carbon footprint breakdown for a business with 5 offices, the major one, the premises it contributes around 59%, then company owned vehicles around 10%, business travel around 20%, commuting around 5% and the deliveries 0.001%. Now, you have to beware of carbon toe print. You should not get confused yourself with the carbon footprint and carbon toe print. What is a carbon toe print? For example, a magazine publisher might claim to have measured its carbon footprint, but in doing so, he looked only at his office and cars, while ignoring the much greater emissions caused by the printing house that produces the magazine themselves. Now, in the process of calculating the carbon footprint, he was taking only the activities which are taking place inside the office and the cars, that is on the transportation factors, but he was not taking into consideration the factors which are causing during the printing of the magazines. This is what called as the carbon toe print. These kinds of carbon footprint are actually more like a carbon toe prints. They don't give the full picture. Many online carbon calculator websites will tell you that your carbon footprint is a certain size based, purely on your home energy and personal travel habits, while ignoring all the goods and services you purchase. So, when you are calculating the thing, you should take these two factors also into consideration, namely the goods and services which you are purchasing it. Then, much of the confusion around the footprints comes down to the distinction between the direct and indirect emissions. Direct emissions can be calculated very easily, but indirect emissions we have to assume and we have to take several other factors into consideration. The true carbon footprint of a plastic toy, an industry which is manufacturing the toy, for example, includes not only the direct emissions resulting from the manufacturing process. So, in the course of the manufacturing process, several factors which contributes the carbon. So, those factors which we can list out very easily, but on the other hand, that in the manufacturing process and the transportation of the toy to the shop, it includes the whole host of indirect emissions such as those caused by the extraction and the processing of the oil used to make the plastic in the first place. To explain it very easily, it is nothing but the life cycle analysis similar to that. That is, in the process of working out, you work out all the various other factors and find out from the beginning to end during the employment of this process what quantum of the emissions it is emitting out. So, from that you can very easily able to calculate the carbon footprint. Then contributing towards the sustainable development. Sustainable development definition, of course, everyone knows the development which is not only taking into consideration the present one, but without affecting the ability of the future generation, or the development must be within the carrying capacity of that. Then what are the various factors are the contributing towards the sustainable development? First, help to identify the low carbon project options that have the potential to make the carbon savings during the design and construction phases. So, first one, we have to identify the various potential sources where carbon savings during the designing of the building and during the construction phase of the building. Second one, carbon savings during a building's operational lifespan by promoting building energy efficiency and the use of renewable source of energy. So, whenever it is possible, we must try to go for the renewable energy sources. Third one, it benefits regional economy. How it helps the regional economy or how it benefits the regional economy? It is by promoting the local construction materials and subcontractors that create relatively low transport related carbon emissions. Again, when you could be able to employ the regional materials or the materials which are available at the vicinity, you can be able to reduce a good amount of the cost in transportation of the materials, number one. Secondly, you can be able to employ the local contractors. Third one, with all these, you can reduce the carbon emissions. Then carbon conscious buildings should be designed according to sustainable urban planning in order to help to reduce their lifetime carbon emissions. The results from a project's carbon footprint can also be used to benchmark the performance and realize the carbon reductions on similar projects in future. Right. Importance of the carbon footprinting for construction industry. We will see the social aspects, economic aspects, how it benefits. First, with reference to the social aspects, projects partner collaboration. So, carbon footprinting involves close collaboration with the project clients, subcontractors, supply chain and the building occupants. So, you can be able to see how a close collaboration exists between the client, contractors and a continuous picture of the supply chain management. Secondly, it raises the knowledge and awareness of climate and sustainability issues within the project team, client, building occupants and among the public in general. If you could be able to build this type of a good knowledge and awareness between the team, client and building occupants and even among the public, you could be able to get a good project partner collaboration and that will pave a good amount of the way for the social aspects, and with the result you can reduce the carbon footprinting in the construction industry. Then, next social aspect, construction's long life buildings are lifelong buildings. The buildings must exist at least more than 50 years. So, accordingly we must plan, accordingly we must execute the thing also. Promotes a life buildings as relatively long lifespan design options may have smaller carbon footprints over their extended life. When the life is going on being extended, with the result there will be relatively a smaller carbon footprint it must leave. Then only the building can be considered a good building with reference to the less carbon footprint. Let us move to the urban planning. In the case of sustainable urban planning, first and the foremost, carbon conscious buildings should be designed according to sustainable urban planning. So, when you are planning the urban itself, you should plan the buildings which are more carbon conscious. carbon conscious in the sense that these buildings must release less emissions and it must leave less carbon footprint. Second one, being located close to amenities and public transport provisions in order to avoid transport related carbon emissions during the building lifespan. Here, in the process of building construction as well as after the building is being occupied, it should have all the amenities close to its vicinity. With the result, we could be able to provide a good, better transport provision so that we can avoid transport related carbon emissions in the process of the building's lifespan. With the result, the less amount of the carbon footprint the building will leave. Then let us move to the economic aspects. In the case of economic aspects, it helps to identify a regionally sourced materials that may have lower transport related emissions. Number one. Second one, since we are using the locally available one, it will be benefiting the local economy. Then third one, procurement options should be analyzed on a case by case basis, as local materials and services may not necessarily offer the lowest embodied and transportation related carbon emissions. So, first and the foremost, we have to give priority for the local one, but that does not mean local alone is supposed to be the good one. So, we have to analyze case by case, and where we could be able to find lower emissions, that thing we have to give top priority. Then next one, financial savings from reduced operational carbon emissions. So, automatically when the carbon emissions are reduced, it will save a good amount of the finance. With the result, we could be able to get more economic benefit. Then reducing operational carbon emissions by promoting energy efficiency, this will translate directly into financial savings for the building's occupants. So, whatever that operational cost which we are reducing in the carbon emission things, that will definitely benefit in the financially to the building occupants. Promoting cost efficient low carbon buildings. Carbon footprinting technique analyzers can incorporate cost estimation, which can compare both economic and environmental cost and promote the delivery of cost efficient green buildings. Here, whatever that environmental cost which is directly involved, we can be able to work it out. Then secondly, whatever that environmental cost which is involved, indirectly calculate that environmental cost converted into economic cost, then add these two things. With the result, you could be able to get a total picture of the financial benefit you are getting it. If that is the real picture, then if it is leaving a less carbon footprint, less emission and more energy efficient, then that building can be considered as a green building or a cost efficient and a cost effective green building. Then reducing that environmental impact during the construction. A building's carbon footprint includes the carbon emissions related to the construction process. First and foremost, why? In the process of the construction, there are lot of activities which will take place, and those activities will lead to the emissions, and that emissions include the carbon, and that carbon again the carbon footprint. Here, I would like to remind you, in the process of construction, then a project must reduce the construction related emissions. How? Number one, utilizing the energy efficient site cabins, lighting and plant machinery, then utilizing environmentally certified electricity, then implementing the worker transport programs. All these things, it will reduce the carbon footprint or the emissions in the process of construction or during the process of construction. Then Waste management. This is the most important. So, you have to find it out. What is the quantum of the waste it generates? What are the characteristics of the waste? And how the waste can be minimized? And whatever the waste which is generated, which is supposed to be an unavoidable one, whether it can be recycled, reused, we have to plan accordingly so that the waste minimization. Otherwise, we can say now you have to integrate a process, thereby instead of going for the end pipe treatment, you have to reduce the waste at the source itself, and wherever it is possible, you have to manage, recycle the waste itself. Then carbon footprinting can help to calculate the life cycle carbon emissions from waste materials based on if they were reused, recycled, incinerated or sent to landfill. Again, the footprinting can also help to calculate the life cycle carbon emissions from the waste material. So, we have to take into consideration whatever the waste material which is released, that waste material, how you are going to treat it, how you are going to reuse it, how you are going to recycle it, whether you are going to even send it for incineration or you send it for the landfill, you have to work it out what is the life cycle carbon emissions from that one. That is also, that factor also you have to take into consideration. Then, reducing that environmental impact during the construction. So, whenever we talk about that environmental impact, we have to take during the construction phase, during the operational phase. So, now I am telling you during the process of construction, first the waste streams, if they could effectively monitored, then again we can reduce the emissions, we can reduce the carbon footprint. Second one, carbon mitigation efforts on future projects should focus on reducing the waste of the materials. The waste of the materials means again wherever and whenever the waste can be minimized or how these materials can be effectively used. Secondly, that whatever the waste which is generated, that waste must be as much as possible recycled. And secondly, when the waste minimization on one hand, on the other hand, that if you could able to recycle it, the same waste, one side reducing, another side recycling, so that we can reduce that emission to a large extent. Moreover, it will save a good amount of the energy and it will reduce the carbon footprint. Then operational energy efficiency. Operational energy efficiency in the sense that is in the process of operation of the building, wherever it is possible, we have to use the energy efficient sources. Energy efficient sources, it includes not only the non-renewable one, that renewable one also we can use it, or we can wherever it is possible, we can move to the alternative source of energy also. So, with the result that efficiency when it is increased, it can significantly reduce the building's total carbon footprint. My final saying, reduce the carbon footprint. Summary, what we have so far discussed are the following. We have discussed about the carbon footprint, how to calculate the carbon footprint, what is a carbon toe print, what is the significance and importance of the carbon toe print, then contributing towards the sustainable development and the importance of carbon footprint, especially for the construction industry. Shall we move to the questions? First question, what is a carbon toe print? Second question, how do you calculate the carbon footprint? Third one, explain the carbon footprint for construction industry. So, with this, we are coming to an end as far as the carbon footprint in the major title of Environmental Management and Development. Thank you very much.